Hello, and welcome to Getting Goosebumps, the podcast where we venture into the spine-tingling worlds of R.L. Stine. My name is Stacy.
And I'm definitely human. My name is Alison.
Hello, I'm Mickey.
And today we are going to talk about Stay Out of the Basement. We are on the second reboot of our podcast, so we have covered this before if you've listened, but we decided to do it over again just for the good times. So we have all read this book previously, but it's been a few years now, I think. So I think there were still some surprises in store for us. I'm going to start by giving a summary that we've written of the book, just so that everyone is up to speed with what this is about. Spoilers ahead if you have not read it, but going forward, take the time, read the book, catch up with us, and then we can chat. All right, Stay Out of the Basement. Margaret Brewer and her brother Casey are two happy kids with a loving family. Their father, a botanist who was recently fired from his job, spends most of his time in the basement experimenting on secret projects. Margaret and Casey attempt to go down into the basement one day, and they're met with the angry shout of their father, warning them to stay out of the basement. They notice one of his hands is wounded and bloodied. Their mother must leave on a sudden trip to visit her ailing sister in the hospital and will be gone for an undetermined amount of time. Their father drives their mother to the airport, and that's when Margaret, Casey, and their friend Diane all take the opportunity to go down to the basement, defying their father's warning. The basement is overrun with exotic and unfamiliar plant life, some of which is bearing strange-looking fruits. The basement has become a greenhouse. The kids all start to hear breathing, and one of the plants seems to be reaching towards them. They flee just as their father is coming home. But this isn't the last time they go down into the basement. They find reasons to go down there again and again, and sometimes the plants are moving, and one time a large plant actually grabs onto them. One of these trips, their father catches them, and he calms their fears by telling them he can't yet reveal what's going on down there, but that one day he will. But as the days go on, Margaret and Casey start to notice strange things about their father. His blood is green now, and he's eating the plant food from under the kitchen sink. He even has leaves growing out of his head instead of hair. One night, they check his bed and find it covered in dirt and crawling worms. And most concerning, Dr. Brewer's previous boss, Mr. Martinez, goes into the basement and never comes out. When their father must leave to retrieve the returning Mrs. Brewer from the airport, the kids go down one final time into the basement and find a man locked in a cabinet. It's their father. The other father returns, and now the two must convince Margaret who the real one is. In a gruesome end, Margaret discovers which of the two is her real dad, handing him the axe to bring about the demise of the other. Very
Dun, dun, dun.
thrilling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't go into too many specifics in the summary so that we could chat a little bit about them now.
Yeah.
But let's start with the cover. Let's start with the actual book before we dive into this spectacular adventure.
This is my favorite cover of all the covers.
It's beautiful.
I love this one. So good.
And I'm pretty sure we discovered that this is like a different artist than every other cover, I think. Didn't we figure that out last time? Like this is
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Jim Thiessen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's gorgeous.
I like how simple it is. It's oh, sorry, were you about to describe it?
I was, but if you're
Go
going
ahead.
to, that's well, okay, all right. It is very simple, as Mickey said. It's just a green, leafy, plant-like hand, so some sort of humanoid plant person reaching out from a slowly opening door and gripping the door right above the doorknob. And like, there's so much detail to the hand, and you can see the tendons, and there's leaves sprouting off of it, and you can see each individual fold of a leaf. And the fingernails on this plant hand are like discolored, and like they have those strange lines on them that usually either means, well, visually it's just supposed to denote something strange and evil, but usually like is malnutrition and like infection. Oh, the hand looks like it's glistening, like it's sweaty. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's very much like Swamp Thing.
Yes.
It's more like adult comic book style than children's Goosebumps book.
Oh,
Yeah, I like that because the composition is so simple and it's also all on like a Dutch angle, which is fun. But it's literally just a close up of an ajar door with a hand grabbing the door.
mhm.
That is the whole composition. But because it's so simple and like, the doorknob's a little detailed and there's shading and everything, but like he really, really went in on the detail on the hand and it's so effective. It's so
Mhm.
good. I love it.
The knuckles are tinged red, which, I
Mhm.
don't know, makes me think of blood. Maybe it is supposed to anyway, but it makes me think of blood. And, like, it's so, like, eerie. And I love this cover. It's such a good cover, guys.
Yep, it's good.
Nice. We approve then.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right, so let's get started with the book. We have our cast of characters: Casey, Margaret, Dr. Brewer. His name is Michael. He's a botanist. His wife, Mrs. Brewer. And we also have Mr. Martinez, who is the department head at Polytech, where the dad worked. They moved out to California so that Dr. Brewer could take this new job. And then he was recently fired from this job and has now been spending all of his time at home in the basement, where he had lots of equipment delivered to go downstairs, and has made it very clear that the kids are not supposed to go down there.
He was fired for doing strange experiments at work.
Oh, can I say a little something that I appreciate about the beginning of this book, about the
No.
setup? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so the last book, a lot of it ended up really, really revolving around the fact that the family was moving, which, like,
Mhm.
was partially because of the plot, but I don't know. It got a little boring to me. Um,
Mhm.
this one sums up perfectly that they're in California. They're not from California because the kids are playing outside and thinking about how it's the middle of winter and they're outside in t-shirts. And it just gets summed up so quickly, and in a few sentences you learn everything you need to know about their situation. Like, they've been in California for a little while, moved out there for their dad's job. He lost his job. Now he's at home driving everybody nuts, including himself, because he has to work from home. And it just is so succinctly and like subtly explained without having to spend like 3 chapters talking about the fact that, oh, we're from another state and now we're in this state and here's all the things that are different here.
This house has wind coming in from this window, but not that window.
Yeah. But I not that that was like horrible about the first book, but it was just something I noticed while I was reading and I really appreciated it. So we
Yeah.
could get into the good stuff faster.
Well, I feel like in the first book, not to like harp on it, it was just to kind of it was just purely to signify that like this is all different and new, and we have no idea what's going on, and everything is new because we moved, or
Mhm.
everything is new because something really messed up is happening. Whereas in this book, it's more like this is our home and we are safe here. But wait, are we?
Right.
And I only just thought of that now as you were talking about that. But
That was brilliant. Good job.
oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice. Okay, so after the initial setup, we move on to, I'm assuming, the next day, next few days, soon after.
It's goose time.
The
Yeah.
intro-
What is
yeah.
time in
Time
Goosebumps?
does pass quite a bit in this book, more than I thought it
Mm.
did. So the mom's sister goes into the hospital and she needs to go to Tucson to see her. So the dad takes her to the hospital. While he's away, the kids are home along with their friend Diane, kid up the street, I guess.
A new friend.
Who they very much specify loves math and science. So she really wants to go into the basement because I guess she's nerdy. I don't know. She wants to know what the dad is doing down there. So they sneak down to the basement. And I think this was one of my favorite parts of the book, where they actually start to describe the basement.
It's so good.
There's hot and steamy air. There's a buzz of electronics. It feels like a rainforest. There's dozens of tall plants, thick-stalked, broad leaves, leafy vines, tree-like with tendrils, fragile ferns, and then gnarled roots. And then there's like fruits growing as well. They definitely talk about tomatoes and some other fruits going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very descriptive enough that you get a great picture of this basement. But the basement is also kind of creepy because the kids start to hear breathing. They think they hear breathing. They also find two glass cabinets, sort of like phone booths, at the back of the basement. And then they hear like a low, sad moan. A tall tree-like plant sighs and reaches for them with its tendrils. And then they leave the basement.
Oh,
But
don't forget that Casey he throws his shirt off while he's down there.
yeah, that's what
right.
I'm getting to.
Important plot point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Casey has left his t-shirt down there because he took it off because it's so warm.
Just throws it to the floor.
As you do.
Yeah. You feel a little warm, you rip your shirt off.
And just chuck it to the ground. Yeah.
It's a
But
thing
they-
we all do.
Yeah.
They only realize he's left it down there because their dad pulls in.
And he's
like,
suddenly
oh no, I'm naked. Oh no. So he has
I
to
only
run
just
back
realized
down to
now
get
you can
it.
see my rippling peck.
This isn't really implied in the writing at all, but do you think he did it because his sister's friend was there?
Well, Diane does say, what a bod.
Yeah, she like jokes as soon as he takes his shirt off. She's
He's
like,
just
cool bod, dude.
he's like waiting for the chance to like tear his shirt off. How old is he? Isn't he like
He's
11?
11.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe.
His
I don't
but
think
this
it's
is
implied
also-
in the writing at all, but I just like to think that in my own private
look at my
storyline.
pale potato stick arms,
Yeah.
Diane. Don't
Yeah.
they fill you with woo?
Forget about your math and science.
I can show you an equation. You plus me equals love.
But this book is written not in the first person. This is written in third person, and we switch. We got to
Yes.
switch from
I love that. I
following
love
Margaret
that.
to following Casey in the basement, because Casey is grabbed by the tendrils in the basement, and Margaret like doesn't hear from him, and she freaks out. So she runs down there because she realizes she has to save him. He's not answering. Dad is coming. Oh my god. So she goes down and frees him, but of course, Dad is waiting at the top of the stairs. Thankfully, though, he's not mad. He's just disappointed. And they genuinely say, Dad, we just want to know what you're doing down there. We're concerned. You're down there all the time. We're interested. We miss you. That's
Yeah.
kind of the stance they take, and I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what did you guys think of the basement? Did you have
I
any...
wanted to see it so bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
I loved the it was like so fun to read the description
Mhm.
and like actually picture it.
Well, it's like, because at first it looked kind of normal, other than the fact that what they said, like 4 to 5 weeks is how long he had been growing stuff. So now we have like a full tree in 5 weeks. But
Right, yeah.
but-
Diane says, "Oh, he really grew all this in 4 or 5 weeks,"
yeah, and
which
it's
is crazy. That's
Oh,
not how
absolutely.
plants work.
so yeah. So you get the idea. It's like, okay, well, something is a little bit off.
Yeah.
And then they start. Diane goes over to one of the tomato plants, I think it is, and she's like, "Ooh, feel this," and she says that the leaves. Or maybe it's a fern. It's hard to keep track of all the plants, but
Yeah.
she says that
It was
the
not a
leaves-
fern based on the description.
Okay,
Just
but she's-
FYI, I'm a plant lady. It was not a fern.
Well, she says that this undetermined plant had leaves that felt like glass.
Yes.
Like they were so smooth, they felt like glass. And I'm like, oh, that's strange. And I just like the more that this is before they even hear the breathing, but that the more they like explore, the stranger it feels. And I really, really loved that.
I also, as a plant lover, appreciate that before they went down into the basement, Margaret was like, okay, we can go down and look, but you can't touch anything. And then Diane gets down there and she's like, I'm going to touch all of these. Because that's how I am with plants too. I'm very tactile. I
Mhm.
love touching everything when I'm in a plant zone.
It must be a very large basement. That's all I could think too. It must
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
huge.
It's
Yeah,
gotta be.
Because there ends up being a closet. There's 2 glass telephone booths
There's a-
down there.
Yeah,
There's a
right,
whole
yeah.
there's a whole ping pong table somewhere in the leafy greens.
Right. The other
It's
interesting
gonna
thing
be
about the
huge.
description of the basement is that in the book it's very emphasized, and I understand later when we watch the television version, it is not lit this way, but in the book it's described how bright it is down there because he's got to have all of these grow lights going constantly. That is really kind of exciting and interesting to set up a spooky area. You know what I mean? Like, it's so bright and so well lit, but it's also so full of plants that they sort of can't see everything all at once.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is super cool. I like that idea more than the green, although it does, like you said,
It
does
looks
look
great.
cool
Yeah.
in the show. The white light, that adds a different kind of creep factor.
Yeah, like sterile plant zone. I don't know. So you still know it's a lab. It's not like a greenhouse. It's not like a beautiful, lush, comforting thing. It's sort of it's like a juxtaposition, you know? It's all leafy and green and full of plants like a forest would be, but you're still standing in a brightly lit white light lab scenario.
It's just so unsettling.
Yeah, and then the next unsettling thing to happen is their dad starts wearing a baseball cap all of the time.
Oh God! Oh no!
And he's not eating anything.
Yeah.
And so Margaret then discovers him one day eating plant food over the sink, just hunched over the sink, going at it, eating plant food,
shoveling dirt in his mouth.
He's eating it.
Dirt.
He's eating it the way that I eat popcorn, which is gigantic handfuls that I like devour from the palm of my hand like a hungry horse.
That's how bad he wants it.
Yeah, he's got to get that dirt.
Yeah, and then the next part, this is where Diane fills in the kids with what happened with their dad, so maybe they start to realize something's kind of weird. She tells them that her dad told her Dr. Brewer was fired because his experiments got out of control, and he wouldn't stop them. He actually even mentions that it's possible someone got hurt in his lab. She can't confirm that, of course. It's just what she's heard. But he definitely was let go because he did not want to stop his experiments, which were kind of weird. And now they're in the basement.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, whatever happened at his job, the kids don't know. They obviously weren't filled in. But whatever happened, it was a big enough deal that there's gossip going around town. If not truth, then gossip going around.
And
town
her dad
about
does
why he
not
got
work.
fired.
Diane's dad does not work at the same lab. He works somewhere else, and someone came in and talked to him about it.
Lab gossip.
Yeah.
You're that crazy scientist over at Polytech? I heard he was trying to grow a tree made of gophers. I don't know. Something weird.
Gossip. It's always strange.
This is also when Dr. Brewer's hat comes into play again, because Casey knocks the hat off with a frisbee, and they realize that his hair is gone. He's entirely bald, except that his hair has been replaced with green sprouts coming out of his head, which is super gross, but leads to my favorite quote from the whole book. Just a side effect. It's a side effect. I think I'm going to have to pick a favorite quote from every book, because there's always one that's just so good.
And it might always be an adult trying to, like, brush something off
flippantly
that shouldn't be brushed away.
Yeah.
Stop seeing things, okay? It's just a side effect. But the dad actually sits them down and explains he's trying to splice plants with animals. No big deal. He's using the glass booths to do this. And Margaret, I really liked this part, because Margaret was really grossed out and concerned, and she has a lot of good questions that she knows she should ask, but has been kind of nervous about it. But she really starts to, like, feel this like unsettled, ominous, gross feeling. And I think that's described really well for her character.
Yeah, but I want to backtrack a tiny bit. I really liked the scene where their dad took them and he was like, listen, okay, I get it. You're freaked out. I've got leaves on my head. And they go and they sit outside in, like, the shade of, like, a hedge. And he's like, okay, let me tell you what's going on. And he actually gives them information. Like, he doesn't dismiss them again, which tends to be a trope in a lot of Goosebumps books. But he, like, sits them down and he's like, look, I'm doing this and this. And it has to do with DNA splicing, and I'm trying to do this, and it's really delicate work, and I'm sorry that I've been so busy. And I don't know, I just really approved of that. Like,
I don't think it necessarily comes from a place of wanting to calm them down. I think he's super stoked about what he's doing, and he's like wants them to be impressed because he's like impressed and excited.
That could also be that, but
because it's not. Spoiler alert! It's not real dad. It's
I was
plant
just going to
dad.
ask, when did the switch happen?
I don't think it's happened. Well,
it could have.
I don't know.
I thought about this a lot while I was reading it, and then afterward. I don't think we
never figured it out.
We only know that it happens after his hand injury at some point.
Yeah.
But it's the same day that she sees him take off his bandage and his blood is green. I assumed it was almost always the plant dad.
Right from the start?
I think if I have to guess, I would say as soon as, at least, and if not earlier than this, actually, no, definitely not. I don't know. But I go with as soon as they start seeing him wear the hat. I think that's the general, which one's the real dad in this book. The hat dad is not the real dad. That's what I go with.
Because the dad at the end explains what he's doing very differently than what this dad explains he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just talk about what he says he's trying to do. He says he's trying to splice plants with animal genes.
Which is not what dad at the end says he was trying to do. He said he was trying to make beefy plants. Right. But he accidentally cut himself and got blood into the plant. And that was not his intention. That was just what happened accidentally.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yep. I think that's an excellent
And then he got a little carried away with it. Of course, he kept doing it. But then I don't think that lasted very long before he had plant dad, and plant dad took over. That was what I was saying. I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong.
I like that theory because, and the tricky thing, especially in the book version of this, is that plant dad does have a lot besides his appearance, which is obviously spot on perfect, besides the hair, which is also the same, it turns out. But he has a lot of the same personality as real dad as well.
But some is different because Margaret from the beginning of the book says that he's acting different. He doesn't call me the nicknames.
He doesn't call me princess.
But I think to a certain extent, I think real dad did, and we see evidence that he threw himself perhaps into his experiments too much.
We can also say
he really did have flaws and was being a bad dad. But then plant dad came and took it to a whole new stratosphere.
Yeah. Well, you could argue, since in that first chapter, that's when we get the first warning not to go in the basement. We see, potentially real dad with the bloodied hand, and the blood is red. And then, it is in that chapter that Margaret mentions, he doesn't even call me princess anymore.
Right.
It could simply, I don't know why I gasped then, but he doesn't call me princess. But
it's very shocking.
It's very shocking, but it could simply be, and as a child, this is hard to understand, as reading this as an adult, could really just be, hey, the dad was recently fired. He's mad, he's upset, he's distracted. That's a big life change, and he's trying to do this thing because, this. So he's going to be distracted. He's going to not really be focused on his kids right now. He's going to be, like we said, a bit of a bad dad. And that could be it. That simply could be it. And then when we start to see the plant food and the leaves and the green blood, then it's plant
That's
dad.
not real dad. That's plant dad.
Oh, yeah, because he's already been eating plant food. So by the time he sits them down,
it
has to be plant dad.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
I'll be interested to see what other people think when they listen to this.
Yeah, you could really make an argument.
That's true, because he was eating the plant food the day before. So that's another solid thing that led me into
not in the first chapter. In the first chapter, it was just.
Oh, no. I mean from where he sat them down. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everything after that, because we don't know how long it was before Dad had to take Mom to the airport to go see her sister. And between that and the first chapter, because it was first chapter, set up, blood red hand, stay out of the basement, and then chapter 2, we have no idea how much time passed.
I know what also led me to think this of when the switch was, because when they're in the basement and Casey gets grabbed and then they come upstairs, Dad is not mad at them. He's disappointed. And he's just kind of like, wow, you guys, I asked you not to do that. Every point after that, he's mean
Angry.
to them.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it was possibly a different dad as well. Because real dad, might be upset, but he's not crazy. And then it switches to, then he gets cruel.
Well,
essentially.
that's the thing, though. If you go back to chapter 1, the end of chapter 1 is him screaming at his kids, "Stay out of the basement! Don't you ever come down here!" And he's yelling.
You could justify that as him being afraid for their safety.
I guess, but if he cut his hand there, and that's the catalyst that made Plant Dad, then why is he afraid of them coming downstairs if there's nothing to be afraid of yet?
There is. He has dangerous plants down there. He has, it's his job too.
I mean, I guess, but it's just kind of counter argument to what Stacy just said about, like, he's not mean until he's Plant Dad, but he's literally screaming at them.
I think if a parent screams at their kid to protect them from doing something dangerous, that is not mean. It is alarming, perhaps.
Okay, I can agree.
Not necessarily mean.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I just did want to put the note up that he does.
Yes, he does yell at them.
He does yell at them that first time, and then he's disappointed the second time, and then after that, he seems to be meaner about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, no matter when the switch actually happens, I do like. I like that in the book. It feels very ambiguous the whole time you're reading it. Even knowing that there's a switch while reading the book, I'm like, well, I know that I'm pretty sure at this point it's a copy of the dad, but he's a fairly good copy. The things that he's doing differently are keeping his own children from realizing that it's not really their dad.
Yeah, it's so I love the undercurrent of horror that this book has about like the horror trope of pod people, of like the people you love being replaced by copies. Like, it's good.
Very much a pod person story.
Like, will you know when your loved one is replaced? Oh.
So the next morning, Margaret finds soil and worms in her dad's bed. That's a weird thing to be into.
It's pretty weird. It's weird, but you could also argue that maybe he's just now using his bed as a
place to raise worms.
Yeah,
please come up with a rational explanation for that.
That's where he raises his worms. They need to be comfortable and warm, and Dad just sleeps on the floor.
And he snuggles them.
He's a hardcore botanist to the core.
Yeah.
That same day, the dad tries to feed them lunch for the first time. He hasn't made lunch or dinner or paid much attention to them, but he offers them lunch. And it is green, pulpy stuff.
It's mashed potatoes.
They called it like mashed potatoes. It was not, spoiler, it was not mashed potatoes. It just
wait,
like mashed
did you talk
potatoes.
about the green blood after they saw his hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
Briefly, but yeah. Because we tied it into which dad.
Oh, yep.
Which dad?
Not witch dad, Plant Dad. Although a witch dad would be fun.
Ooh, witch dad.
I love a witch dad.
This is the same day that Mr. Martinez shows up, which saves them from having to eat the green pulpy stuff. They dump it down in the garbage when Mr. Martinez shows up, who is their dad's ex-head of department at Polytech. And he shows up and says, hey, I wanted to check on you, what you're working on. I supported your work. I didn't want to fire you. It was a board decision. So I'm here just to see what you're doing. So Dad takes him into the basement to show him what he's doing. And then I have here that the kids go back into the basement again. I don't know which day this is.
They just go down all the time. This is for a book titled Don't Do the Thing. They do the thing almost every other chapter.
They do the thing a lot.
They go do the thing. They go down. See how the basement, you say? Okay, well, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down a lot more than I ever did before. Because in 5... So the argument is in like 4 to 5 weeks. So Dad's been growing this stuff. And they've never been down the basement once in those 4 to 5 weeks. Because they didn't know those plants were down there. Suddenly, now they're going down the basement over almost every hour. It's Like, their dad should have just said, yeah, come down the basement whenever you want. And they would have been like, well, whatever. I'm going to go play Frisbee again. And none of this would have happened.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is an argument for reverse psychology on children.
So they go down another day. There's more plants. They're thicker. And they find Mr. Martinez's jacket, like pushed underneath one of the tables down there.
He got hot, so he took it off and threw it on the floor.
Which is what you do, I guess.
Yeah.
So they panic about Mr. Martinez never having left. But Dad explains Mr. Martinez took it off because it was hot and he just forgot it. He's going to give it to him later.
I do want to say, again, I think the plant dad is doing a pretty good job, because when he said that, I said, well, that is a pretty good excuse for why someone would leave their jacket. It's a hot, muggy, swampy basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he just
Casey
forgot.
already did it, so.
Yeah,
he did
exactly.
They can't say nothing. Casey did it.
Okay, so the next day, finally, Mom is coming home. Her sister must be better now. So of course, the dad goes to pick up the mom.
Well, she's either better or she's not.
Oh.
Aw.
Yeah.
I think she's better.
I think she's better too.
It's a kid's book. Nothing bad happens. She's better. Yeah.
Lots of bad things happen.
Yeah, that's the point.
So Dad goes to pick up Mom at the airport because she's coming home from Tucson. So of course, the kids again return to the basement because why not? They find more of Mr. Martinez's clothes down there, and then they start to hear thudding from a nearby cabinet, but I think it's actually a closet.
Yeah,
because it ends up being really big. They have to break open this closet because it's boarded up and locked. And inside they find plants with human features. They're described to have
good.
Arms, legs, even faces that kind of would be like a green tomato, except it's a face.
This was my favorite little section of the book.
So,
it's so good.
Oh,
so horrifying, so disturbing to imagine. Truly.
Oh, wait. So wait, you didn't finish. They found Mr. Martinez's jacket, but they also found his pants and his shoes.
Well, they didn't find his pants and shoes until this point.
But yeah.
Also, inside the closet, they find the actual Mr. Martinez and a second dad tied up. Dad number 2.
Second dad.
And this second dad, once they take the tape off his mouth, claims that he is the real dad and other dad is the plant dad. So they untie him.
Well, Margaret wants to untie him right away.
Yeah,
Casey actually is a little bit more suspicious of the situation, which is good. It's good that he's a little on edge, That's reasonable.
Yeah.
And Margaret ultimately ends up deciding to untie him.
Yes, and then Dad immediately goes and gets an axe. So everyone is terrified.
Yep.
Like, oh no, what have we done? And in the meantime, Dad number 1 and Mom return home. And Mom doesn't...
Dad.
Alpha Dad.
Mom stresses me out a little bit through this part.
Oh, yeah,
she just kind of stands there freaking out, but I guess she's super confused.
To be fair, she just drove home with her husband, and then she found her husband in the basement, and her husband is standing next to her, and her kids want to chop her husband in half. I'd be freaking out too.
That's fair. It's fair to freak out. It's fair to be confused in that situation, but all she does is scream no.
Yells at the kids. That's what makes me so mad at one point. She just yells, "Kids, what have you done?" And it's like, what?
Kids, you clearly have a botany history. What have you done, my children? My husband, my innocent husband, who would not do this? How could you do this to him?
So it is a tale of 2 dads, and we had to figure out which dad is the real dad.
I love it.
So Margaret devises a genius plan. She takes a knife and cuts the new dad, closet dad, and he bleeds real blood. So she knows he is real dad. So she gives him the axe. Oh, because she took the axe at one point. I don't know, because she's a superhero now.
She just has an axe suddenly.
There was a great moment where it's like a sort of like a Mexican standoff scene in a movie where she has the axe and she's looking at both dads and she has no idea which one she's about to murder, I guess.
Yeah. She just grabs an axe, and clearly she's got murder on her mind.
But then she decides to do a little experiment,
Yeah.
and she figures out which one's the real dad.
Oh,
And she gives real dad the axe, and then he takes the axe to plant dad and just like chops him straight down the middle.
I know this was the second time we read this in the past few years.
mm-hmm.
I still was not expecting.
Oh no, I
The
was
result.
absolutely. Yeah, I was talking about before we started recording about this scene. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Can we
He
just
splits him in twain, and there's nothing inside except plant stock.
Can we just read? I just want to read the couple sentences. So it's just so good, guys. So he sliced the real dad, sliced fake dad in half, or sliced him in two, I guess, at the waist.
Sure.
And he said, a thick green liquid oozed from the wound, and as the man fell, his mouth locking open in disbelief and horror, Margaret could see that his body was actually a stem. He had no bones, no human organs. That sentence, Margaret could see that his body was actually a stem, fills me with such existential horror. Like, oh, like, it's like riveting and awful, but amazing.
Yep.
Ooh.
So he's cut in half now.
Yeah, he is.
So
And
that's that.
This is the point where Dad explains that he had been making a super plan. He accidentally cut his hand, got blood in the experiment, making crossbreeds, etc., etc. But then he gets rid of all of the plants. Well, except some. There's some that he wants to go plant in the backyard because they're quote unquote regular plants.
Yeah.
But all of the weird ones he gets rid of because he actually feels kind of bad because these plants were obviously hurting either emotionally or physically. Yeah, they were suffering in some way. But Margaret encounters a tiny flower that speaks to her in the backyard and says, "No, I'm Margaret," or something like that. And that is how the book ends. Questioning whether these tiny flowers in the backyard are sentient or not, I guess.
Also, just a little note, Mr. Martinez gets out okay. He's fine.
Oh, yeah, he's all right. Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine, everybody. And he doesn't seem to really be holding a grudge against Dad about this whole situation.
No, because doesn't he try to get his job back? Because he's super impressed.
Yeah, he's like, this was awesome.
You really took me hostage. I think you're great. Like, you want to go back and work for me, man?
Yeah, you're really good at science, obviously.
Oh, because he said it would be safer if you did it in the lab or something like that.
Well, yeah, and that's probably true.
Where we could keep an eye on you, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no ulterior motive.
Surveillance.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. When you come to work, though, you will have to go through a metal detector.
So now that we've discussed the story, I wanted to touch on Michaela's favorite segment, Fashion Report.
Well, I have some bad news, guys.
Oh no.
There's no fashion report for this book. I'm so sorry. There were no weirdly specific descriptions of what the children were wearing. There is one part where Mr. Martinez's outfit was described, but it's just a suit. There's nothing 90s about that. So I'm very sad to say this book did not lend any fashion report. I'm so sorry.
That's so unusual. That's like a massive outlier in the Goosebumps series to not have clothing descriptions.
Maybe somebody else ghost wrote this.
a bonus, which could maybe be a spin-off segment, is something that is in a lot of the books as well, is I truly believe that R.L. Stine, a man who was, I think, at least his 40s when he was writing these in the 90s, the names he picks are not from the 90s. The names he picks for children, which Margaret and Casey are okay. No. I'll give them that.
It's 1992, and this is my daughter, Brunhilde, and my son, Gargamel.
Yeah. So it's the 90s, so we can assume that these kids are, around between 11 and 12. We can assume that their parents are probably late 30s, maybe 40s, and their aunt's name is Eleanor. That is not a, that is what R.L. Stein's aunt's name is.
R.L. Stein, who is probably, 30 or 40 when he wrote
60,
this?
70 when he wrote these.
He's still alive now.
I know. I'm just kidding. But that is something that I like about the books, is sometimes the names, it's especially egregious when there is a 8-year-old named, I can't think of an old name now, Balthazar.
You guys are going the wrong way with these names.
No, we're going the right way.
I do love the name Eleanor, though, but it is a very, very old person name.
Yeah.
But anyway, more on that another time.
Okay, so that takes us on to the episode, or episodes. There was 2 of this one as well, which, again, with this one, there were quite a few changes, but they were changes in that we're shifting from a book to a television episode. So some things were sped up, like the time frame was slightly different, and some small changes to make it appear better on screen. I only have one major note from this because, again, I'm not super into the episodes, I think, like you guys are.
I love the episode.
Is that show dad is much more threatening and book dad was just more absent.
Yes.
Show dad was terrifying, like I'm gonna murder you type of terrifying.
He was really scary, and that is something I noticed, and I appreciate at the same exact level between the book and the TV show. But in the book, Plant Dad is a much better copy of their dad, and I get maybe he just comes off that way because he's not present very often. But TV show dad is like, okay, if these kids don't know their dad is a pod person, I don't know what to tell them. Because the scariest scene in the TV show, and I can't remember which episode it is in, but Margaret is on the phone with her mother, and she's just beginning to say that something is wrong with dad. And he grabs the phone from her, holds it up, and while staring intense daggers into Margaret's eyes, and I know that he is staring into the actual actress's eyes because you can see his pupils shifting back and forth. He's staring at both of her eyeballs. And I can't remember what he says, but he says, "Yes, everything is fine. I should spend more time with the children. You're right, dear. Okay, bye-bye."
Yeah.
It's so scary.
That's
so
exactly
scary.
One of the scenes I was thinking of. It was intense.
Yes, very intense.
That, and I lied. I had one more note. And it was that Margaret was insanely fashionable.
Oh my gosh, she was so... Oh my god. Everybody, stop what you're doing right now while you're listening to this podcast and look up screen caps from this episode, because Margaret could be wearing all of these outfits right now in 2020, and she would be a very fashionable young child.
Yeah, she'd be rocking it.
Yeah.
Her outfits were so cool.
Yeah.
Her pants were very big. That was probably the one 90s thing that hasn't quite come back in the same way. She has jeans on, and they're kind of big.
Jinko
but
jeans.
not big in that they're wide legs. I just mean
like mom jeans, and those are super popular here. I could wear every single one of her outfits into my office, and no one would notice.
Her tops are so cool. She has on this like matching sweater shirt thing at one point that is like, I think it's blue and yellow, or it's black and yellow, and it's like this graphic design of stripes that almost look like a Letterman jacket or something, but it's not. I don't know. It's so cool. She is so cool. I love her.
She's awesome.
Fashion icon.
She is. Yeah. The actress even did a great job. I really liked her.
Yeah, I did too.
The episode's amazing.
And I don't know if I said this last time, but, and maybe Alison will agree with me, does she look like a baby Stacy a little bit?
She does look like a baby Stacy. She looks like a baby Stacy, but with like wavy hair.
It's wavy hair.
Yeah,
I did have wavy hair.
If Stacy, no, you have like,
because I straightened it.
You have
my
like
natural hair looks like that.
I've seen your wavy hair. You've got like thin, billowy, like corn silk hair. This is you if you had Hermione hair.
No. You're exaggerating a little bit.
Oh, like a mix of Stacy and Hermione would make this creature.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome. You're a 90s fashion icon. Take
You
the
are.
compliment.
Yeah, take it and run.
Okay, so are there any other points from the episode that you guys wanted to touch on?
Just how much I loved the dad's performance.
Oh, he did so good.
It was totally different from the book, but I think that was like a conscious choice. He knew he was in a B-movie TV show, and that's what he was going with.
The adults in the Goosebumps episodes are always just, well, usually they're usually just like, hey, you know what? I know why I'm here, and I'm gonna just go crazy.
Yeah.
B-movie kids horror TV show. I'm about to go nuts.
And we already did sort of discuss this, but the basement looks a lot different on the TV show than it is described in the book, which is okay. I think they made the right choice because it looked really cool. It had all this green lighting and fog, and it looked really tight and cramped. It was cool.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for our discussion. Now we move on to rating. Alison, what do you rate Stay Out of the Basement?
Dang it, I didn't want to go first.
Here you are.
Well, when we did this the first time around, I gave it 2 plant thumbs up. But this time, I'm going to give it 8 fake plant dads out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the book, love the episode.
I am going to give it 8 out of 10 handsy tendrils.
Oh.
Very nice. I am going to give this book, I'm going to give it 4.75 out of 5 moaning. Wait. I was going to say tendrils, but Stacy said tendrils.
I did. Pansy ones.
Pansy?
Pansy.
Mancy?
Lancy?
Dancy?
Michaela, what is your rating?
My rating is 4.75 out of 5 green mashed potatoes.
Nice.
Solid. Or mushy, I guess.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good one.
So we ask all of you to hit us up on social media and tell us what your rating for Stay Out of the Basement is. You can find us at Goosebumps Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And next time we will be exploring Alison's favorite Goosebumps book, Monster Blood.
I'm leaving town.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time. Stay spooky.
Ooh, bye.